Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So with ID here, and today's tutorial I'll be showing with you guys how to draft the pattern of this beautiful dress you're seeing, and in the next video I'll be showing you guys how to cut and sew. So let's get started. What I have here now is my pattern. I've gone ahead to mark my starting line, which is my shoulder measurement, or my shoulder line, sorry. I'll go ahead and mark from my shoulder to my nipple point, which is 11 inches. I'll go ahead to also mark from my shoulder to my waistline, and then we're going to go ahead and connect the lines. Okay, after connecting, I'll come down from the waistline by 11 inches. You can go ahead and mark your shoulder, your waist to your hip. Sorry, you're going to go ahead and mark your waist to your hip from the waist. Okay, so I marked 11 inches, so I added additional 1 inches just for adding sake. I didn't use it actually, but you can go ahead and add it, or you can as well don't add it. Okay, so after marking out this line, I'll go ahead to label it my bust point and the waistline, and from the waistline there I'm going to come down by 11 inches, which is going to serve as my hip line, and I'm going to also mark it out and label. So I'll do that. So on the shoulder line, I'm going to go ahead and mark my shoulder circumference divided by 2, and from that point I'll come down by 1 inch to create our shoulder slope or slant. On the center front, I'm going to come down by 3 inches, which is going to be my neck depth for the front, and I'll go in by 3 inches for the neck width for the front. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and connect that to create our neckline and also our shoulder. Having done that, the next thing we're going to do is to create our armhole. Okay, and you know, if you'll be following me, you should know how to do that. Now for us to get our armhole line, you're going to divide your bust circumference by 6 plus 1.5. So for my own measurement, that's what I have there, and I'm going to go ahead and impute that measurement there. And on that point, I will make sure I mark my shoulder circumference by 2 at that point. Okay, so we'll have a straight line, and I'm going to connect from the shoulder slope to our armhole line. So that's our armhole line. Then I will extend it to the side, and that's going to be my chest line. So go ahead and do that, and yeah, I'll just go ahead and label that CL, which is chest line. Okay, so I'll go ahead to correct that line there because it wasn't looking straight. So make sure that your lines are straight. After doing that, this is what we have so far. We're going to take our bust circumference around the chest line. So your bust circumference divided by 4, you're going to impute it there. Your waist circumference divided by 4, you also do that, and the same as your hip circumference. Okay, we're not adding any allowance yet, so you're going to just impute all your body circumferences there. The next thing I will go ahead to do is to add the allowance which we'll be using for our dart. Okay, so the dart I'll be using is 1 inch, so I'm going to be adding that on the waistline. Now this dart is going to extend to the hip, but I will remove it later. Okay, because the dart that is on the waist is going to touch the waist for the lower part, because this has like the upper part and the lower part, which is the skirt part. But just go ahead to what you understand as we go on. I will go ahead to get my bust span or my nipple to nipple measurement, and we're going to impute that measurement. Okay, so the bust span I'll be working with for this tutorial is going to be 8 inches divided by 2, and that will give me 4 inches. So at that bust point, I'm going to mark my 4 on the waist, and I'll also mark the 4 inches, and I'll connect the lines in a straight line. Okay, then from the waistline I'll come down towards the hip line by 4 inches to 5 inches. So it depends on how long you want your dart, or you want the dart to stop towards that point. Okay, you can as well come up from your hip by 2 to 3 inches, but I don't want it to be long because I won't even be using that on the lower part, that's on the skirt part. But for the sake of this tutorial, if you would want to use that, just go ahead and do this. But for me, I wouldn't use it, but we're going to still connect it regardless. Okay, because we need it for our dart. Okay, so that's what I have there. Now remember, the dart intake we replaced earlier was 1 inch. You can as well do 1.5. Okay, so 1.5 is still pretty much okay. I think I even did 1.5, I don't remember, but you can use 1 inch to 1.5. Now you might be asking, is it not too small? Yeah, it depends on what you want, and for the style purpose, it does not have so much space for bust here. Okay, but you can do yours like that too. I think what I did was 0.75 on both sides, so what I used for that should be 1.5. Okay, now after connecting it to the hip part, we are going to come down from the bust line by 1 inch or 0.75. So I'm giving you this option so that you can choose the one that suits you, because what I'm using might not work for you. Okay, that's why I keep saying 0.5 or 0.75. But if you're on the bust and you want to take your dart, you should use 0.75. But if you're slim, please use 0.5. Okay, now I'm going to connect my dart, as you can see, and this is what we have. The next thing we're going to be doing is to create our halter neck effect, or our halter neckline. Okay, now it depends on you, it depends on how wide or how open, how slim you want it. For the sake of this tutorial, it's very tiny. So initially I marked 1.75 from the neckline, okay, but it turned out to be big, so we are going to work on that later. But for now, what I have there is 1.75, and I'm going to connect it to the chest line, so that's going to like serve as our armhole or neckline, whichever one you call it. Okay, so if you're the type that don't want yours to be too revealing, or you don't want it to be small, you can go ahead and use this. But remember that when you open, it's going to be 3.5, but this is okay because you're still going to sew. Okay, so I always advise you have a 6 than for you to have small or shortage of it. I didn't really like the way it was looking, so I decided to take my ruler inward a little so it can go inside, because from the style inspiration, the halter neckline is very small. Okay, so I just reshaped that side. You make sure that as you're reshaping, you're not doing it too much so that your bust does not spill. Okay, now after doing that, we're going to measure what we have there, more like the circumference of that halter neckline, and you're going to divide it into two, because we need to connect our that. So you're going to divide it into two and mark that point. Just get the middle of that line, and after marking it, you're going to connect it to that our bust dart measurement, or the dart. Okay, so we're trying to create, we have to tighten this side, because if you don't tighten, it's going to gape. Okay, so you will need to tighten it so that it fits properly on your body. And if you watch, I'm using a slightly curved part of this ruler, because you don't want it to look straight. If it looks straight, it might be hard for you to have a nice line. So that's why I used a slightly curved ruler, and I'm just going to go ahead and connect it. Remember, if you look close, you will see I'm connecting it to that point you came down from the bust point. Okay, so you want everything to align. Okay, are you seeing what I did there? Perfect. So now we're going to go ahead and contour that point. For this one, I use 0.75 on both sides. If you're on a smaller size, I think you can use it, but if you're big, because I ended up tightening more, I tightened about half an inch later. That's 0.75 on both sides. Okay, so I would advise you use 1 inch on both sides. That's removing 2 inches, or you can still do this one and check if it works for you, then it's fine. Now I'm doing this on both sides. You have the option to also take this your darts just on one side towards the armhole. So this 1.5, or yeah, this 1.5 or your 2 inches, you can take it directly on the side towards the armhole. If you don't want it to like have like a, if you don't want to take that on the two sides, like taking 0.75 on both sides, you can just do 1.5 on one side. Already it still works like that, and I think it gives it a finer that line. Okay, so after connecting that, this is what I have now. Okay, just go ahead and make sure that you don't have any sharp edges. I'm using my ruler or my curve ruler to blend that bust point. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to be doing, I'm still cross checking my dart there to be sure. And now if you're using 1.5, you have to replace it. If you're using 2 inches, you have to replace it. So at that chest line there by the side, I'm going to go ahead and replace the 1.5 inch that we removed as our tightening. If you don't do that, your body measurement or your fabric will end up being short. Now if you look at that you'll see that they are not equal, so you want it to be equal, so by the time you're sewing, one will not be longer or one will not be shorter. So I'll go ahead and measure the two leg of the dart, and you'll see that one is about 4.25, one while is about, I think the other one is about 5 or 5.5. So I'm just going to extend that line so it matches the same measurement as the other one, and then we are going to recurve that. So that's going to give us our new armhole. This is very simple, and I hope you understand. But if you have a question you need to ask, please go ahead and drop your question in the comment section. I will always reply you. So I'll go ahead to use my ruler to cover that armhole. That's our new armhole. Sorry, I could have cleaned these multiple lines, but I just hope you are not confused, please. Okay, so this is what we have so far now, and I believe everything is coming together. Okay, so don't mind the other lines. This one is what we are working with. And if you want to confirm that it is equal, you can go ahead and fold that and you will see that the both sides are equal. All right, so good. Now After doing that, this is what we have so far. Remember that this dart we took out, we have already replaced it, okay, and we've not added any sewing allowance to this. Good. Now we need to create that basque effect on the dress. If you look at the dress, you see that there's a basque effect. Remember, the hip line I'm marked here is 11 inches instead of 10 inches, but I won't be using that, so I'll be using my actual hip measurements. Initially I wanted it to be longer, but this is okay for me, so you can use yours or make it longer. So for me it's 10 inches, so I'll go down by 10 inches, and by the side I will mark 4 inches, and I'm going to go ahead and connect. So I marked the side 4 inches, and the center I came down by 10 inches. So I'm going to use my ruler to create a curve, not like a curve, but something that looks like it, and then that's going to be the basque effect for this dress. Okay, so far I believe this is simple, and yes, this is what we have so far. This is what our dress is looking like. Now we need to connect that armhole. Remember that we went out by 1.5. We need to connect it back to the waist, and now I went ahead to reduce this my neckline. Like I told you earlier, I didn't like it, looked big to me, so I reduced it to 1.25. So by the time you open it, you're going to be having 1.5. You're going to be having 2.5, sorry, 2.5, but which I still later reduced it. So you have to just do it to your preference. Okay, I did it to my client's preference. It's not me that is wearing it, so I have to look at what is there and give the person what they want. So after reducing it, I'm just going to connect it back to that leg or that line. So that is basically it. Then the next thing we're going to be doing is to connect the side, the 1.5 inch we removed earlier. I'm just going to go ahead and connect it. I was just explaining it to you guys that you should not get confused though, that make sure you don't get confused about those plenty lines. Okay, I didn't have eraser, I would have erased that. So I'm just going to connect this into the waistline, and we are basically done. Now we're going to be making use of this pattern for the front and the back. Okay, the only thing I'll be doing when cutting the back is that we are going to remove zipper bulging, and the side of this, that's the part that has that bust effect that looks like it's a little bit curved, you can go ahead and trim it off to just make it straight. But if you like, you can also create another pattern just the same way it is, but you don't have to do the bust, but you don't have to do this bust. You just take your bust, your that straight up, make sure you also tighten. But I don't know if you understand what I'm doing. You should be able to see this same pattern to make your back. Okay, so for my bust, for my zipper bulging or whatever, or tightening, I came in by 0.75, so I marked that. Okay, I think you should know how to do this. If you don't know how to do that, please go and watch my basic bodies drafting. You should understand that better. Okay, so we're going to use it for the front and the back, like I said earlier. Just go ahead and cut it out. As you can see what we have. Okay, so I'm still going to go ahead and fold out that there, so that we'll make sure that our darts are matching. Okay, as you can see that there is no one that is longer or shorter. That means you're correct. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do, this pattern is divided into two parts, so I'm going to be cutting out the waist to the lower part. I'm just going to cut out the half length shaft from the pattern. Okay, so we're going to cut it out, and then I'll remove that dart on the waist. Remember I said I don't want this dart to be on the waistline, that's on the lower part. I'm going to remove it. Okay, so before that, we're just going to go ahead and cut out your the main part, that's the half length. You're just going to go ahead and cut it out, and please don't forget, when you're sewing, add your sewing allowance and all of that. Just go ahead and trim off that side, that part that has like a bust kind of pointiness. Okay, that part I'm trimming out. Just go ahead and trim it in a way that is just going to lap for the back. Okay, that's the only thing you're going to do for the back on this part, and also the zipper bulging. or the zipper, whatever. Okay, so that's just I'm explaining that when you're cutting for the back, just go ahead and trim. So you're going to cut the front first before cutting the back, or you cut it together, then remove the back part and trim it off. I hope that makes sense. Yes, it does. So when you're cutting the back, like I said, you're going to remove that zipper bulging excess that we did there. Now this pattern, we also have the darts here, this lower part as you're seeing. Like I said, we are going to remove it. Now you might be wondering, oh, can I not fold it? Let me fold it now to go. See, if you fold it, it's going to squeeze, okay, because you need to open another dart for that place to relax very well. And if you do that, you can see that you're going to have a lot of folding. You're going to see that it's not even going to relax well as you're seeing on this video. So I'm doing this for you guys to see, okay, in case you come and ask that question. So this is what it will look like. So what do? Just go ahead and remove the allowance from the side. Simple. So what I'll be doing now is, remember the measurement, that intake we took there is 1.5. You're going to mark your 1.5 by the side, or you measure whatever you have there, mark it by the side, and just go ahead and connect it and trim it off. So that's it. In that way, we don't have that on the waist of the lower part. Okay, so that's basically it. Yes, if you've watched at this point and you have not subscribed to the channel, you have not liked, you have not dropped a comment, please go ahead and do so. Support this channel. I know it's been a while, I've been so busy, and it's been a hell trying to upload these videos. I don't know why. Each time I try to upload it, there's just one problem or the other one. I uploaded it, I downloaded it, at the end of the day I couldn't see it on my phone, I lost it and all of that. So please go ahead and subscribe, like, just say something nice. It's a way of encouraging someone. So thank you guys. See you in the next video, which is the sewing one. Bye.